but you don't always know
that you're learning it.
Yeah, until much
until later. Gotcha. When they're revealed to you, and you're like, oh,
and
that's what he meant.
Small aside, I was an Eagle Scout. I was cooking in the woods as a Boy Scout when I was, in elementary and middle school, and to think that 20 plus years later I'd be cooking over fire with, a prominent chef in the country. It's just funny how the world works.
Mm-hmm. How long did you stay at that restaurant?
It was
just the summers?
The four
summers. Gotcha.
Summers, yeah.
Did you, after school was over, were you like, I'm going to go back there? Or were you like,
No, it's a really seasonal place.
Okay.
Our home is actually not winterized, so it was never something I considered for anything other than the off-season, or the normal, season. But after college graduation, I pretty much just picked up where I left off in New Jersey.
Gotcha.
Just starting in some small restaurants and with anybody that would kind of give me a shot. Basically.
Got you. And that was after school?
That was after college.
Got you. So you moved back home, and you're like, I'm just going to
just figure something out.
Got you. Did you ever think about going into New York?
City? I did. 10 or 12 years before I moved to San Francisco, I know we're jumping ahead, but I actually wanted to move to San Francisco, and I had the revelation, that I just don't know shit. At all.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I can't move across the country for a job. So New York was the next close
enough
thing.
for you to fail.
Right, but I still had to work a bit before I could even. I wasn't going to commute to New York for basically a diner job.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I spent 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 7 years in New Jersey.
Okay.
Working, couple places, moving around until I made a connection and got to a point where I had enough confidence to where I could go work in a proper, move it or lose it restaurant.
Yeah.
So I went
at that 7-8 year mark, were you like, okay, now I'm ready?
Well, I thought so.
Yeah, okay.
But clearly you and I both know.
Yeah, that you're never ready.
Both know that you don't have any fucking clue.
You're never ready for anything.
No.
Yeah.
And even now, we're never ready as much as we try.
Exactly.
So, and that was a tremendous experience. It was eye-opening, but I also, I really stuck to that because, I have... ADD or ADHD, whatever, from undiagnosed from when I was little. So, I know you've talked about the focus and the organization,
it's hard.
Concentration, and a lot of that stuff is hard. But for me, the compartmentalizing of our jobs, our days, our stations, our lists, our teams, everything about it, our time is so easy for me.
Yeah,
because I just see it in lists and grids.
Yeah.
So just working in this environment where I started on the AM Garmager station, which was 2 people.
Yeah.
But just the whole spread.
Station partners.
Every little thing being so specific and precise, which I didn't experience before that.
Yeah.
And I kind of had this inkling that there was, I knew that there was more, and I knew that there was better, and I knew that there was tighter and all that. But finally seeing it and being like, wow, this feels more natural, and and I knew that there was that light at the end of the tunnel. So
got you. I feel like we all are always like, oh, light at the end of the tunnel, and then when you get to the light, it's only just a start to another tunnel.
Right, exactly. But those little milestones of seeing the better and having more to strive for.
It's a series of conquering fears.
Exactly.
That's all it is. You're afraid to prep the chicken because you might fuck it up, but then you learn the chicken and you're like, okay, good. Well, now it's the salmon, and you're like, oh shit. So what was this first job in New York that you got?
I worked for Michael White at Maria.
Okay.
All coastal Italian, fresh pastas.
Yeah, we did a dinner with him at Meadowwood one time. It was a weird situation. We were at the Skywalker Ranch. Yeah, we did it there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It was,
I feel like I heard about that.
Maybe. It was probably 9 years ago now. It was I just started.
This is
and I remember we made so many canapes. There was supposed to be 3,000 people there. And Rich Wang, to this day, has made more kale chips than anyone at the restaurant at Meadowwood because he literally made 2 per person. And then no, we sold nothing. We were in this back hallway. Yeah. no traffic, so we just pretty much were eating the food because we're like.
I feel like that's the California party way. Because the canapes never go. These people are they're wealthy and they're socializing and they're drinking fine wine.
Yeah, they don't give a shit about it.
They want to sit down and eat and go home.
Meanwhile, I'm the guy that stands by the gate by where they're coming out of the kitchen, and I'm like, "Yeah, let me get that one. Let me." You know
I gotta
what I mean?
make sure it's right.
It's like you got a small plate. So Michael White, did you have interaction with him? Was he in the kitchen every day? Was he like grinding?
He was there a fair amount.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my first experience with a chef that was, somebody that people knew, that also had a real team supporting him.
Got you.
So it was kind of cool for me to see that. And the guys that I directly had to work with and for were tremendous. Mm-hmm. I learned so much from them. And again, it being my first holy fuck job, you know what I mean? You really had to be a sponge.
Yeah.
So that was pretty darn cool. But he was around a good bit. I learned some good lessons from him. Nothing in a negative way, but him just teaching me some things. I mean, I learned how to make risotto from him, which was cool.
Yeah.
And he has
you never forget that guy.
No, and just the nuances of it, and it's something I still use. I mean, I made risotto last week, and I still use.
Use that same technique, yeah.
Spinning the rondo and meticulous, movement and everything. So it's again, those little things stick in your brain, and I have those from as far as I can remember.
Dope. So, how long did your time span there?
It's about a year, and I had a pretty bad foot break.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I fell out of my... It seems to be a funny story, but I fell out of my loft in Brooklyn one night trying to use the restroom. Because it was basically like this.
Yeah.
And slipped coming out of the stairs and fell basically off the ladder onto the floor.
Oh.
It's a high space. And I basically dove onto the floor, so my foot came down and I broke my foot.
Oh, God. Okay.
So they had a 90 days out policy. If you're out for 90 days,
you're done. Okay.
Yeah. But which was understood.
Yeah.
Nobody can pay somebody whatever. So I was asked to come help a place in New Jersey, a place called Upstairs. It's no longer there, but it was a small, real small contemporary restaurant above a Japanese restaurant. It was real small, 40 seats, a bar, open kitchen, cool space. And they were doing some neat stuff before. I guess they wanted to move a bit forward, so they asked me to come on, and I was pretty much healed up at that point, so I was back on my feet. And we did some nice stuff. It was a fun project. I worked with some good friends, made some memories, and did that for, I guess, about a year. It's a gentleman I worked for wanted me to falsify some things and lie to my guests and stuff like that, serve frozen fish when it was fresh, and that whole thing. So I kind of had to say goodbye to that.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of doing projects all over. I did some stuff down in Baltimore. Did some stuff in Jersey City. I helped open another restaurant in New Jersey, which did great. And then again, owners wanted the whole you should do dollar oysters, but I'm selling Bologna oysters at $40 a dozen.
Yeah.
15 dozen a night. So it's just these weird disconnects, and that's what I said about New Jersey before. It was very hard for me because it has so much to offer.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like there's a lot of what's in the brain.
Yeah.
There's not nobody, but a lot of people are not really forward thinking.
But you control all the food that goes into New York. I mean, most of it. It's a garden state, for Christ's sake.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it seems to be it's always the people.
It's the people.
The people that dictate what's going to be successful there.
Exactly. And if you remember our conversation today with what's so cool about Nashville is that, people here care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think growing up, I just experienced that, people only give a shit about themselves.
Very true.
And that's a hard thing to be around and, work in and try to support people and do nice stuff when at the end of the day, your guests don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And after a couple more years of that, I knew somebody that was getting an opportunity started here in Tennessee, which brought Ashley and myself down here. Myself first, I started this LaSalle restaurant with the Strategic Group. French bistro, oysters, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Again, they hired a chef. They had some different ideas. We had some struggles. They fired the chef. They asked me to move forward with them. We did a whole tasting.
Yeah.
Kind of went sideways. They told me they were going to go with somebody else. It was a whole big...
Gotcha.
The typical stuff that we kind of...
The
curtains
that you deal with.
Smoke and all that, yeah.
This restaurant's going to be this. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
But you believe it because you're like, yeah, I get to do anything I want.
Right.
You're like, no, you don't.
And when you, as I said before, deal for so long with people talking about who people are and things like that, you kind of get tired of it.
Yeah.
And the first chef that they tried to sell me on for this restaurant was, he's so-and-so and he's from here and he's done this. Okay, great. Well, that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Just because they are from this place doesn't mean they have any credibility.
Yeah. I would say the best kitchens have had shitty cooks in them. Like every best kitchen
of course,
has had shitty cooks.
Some or many.
Yeah. Because I've heard that before at Meadowwood. People would be like, oh, well, he's from here. Yeah. And I'm just like, after a while, you're just like, okay, well, let's see how he works. Like, I'm not just going to take this for,
Of course. You'd be silly, too.
Yeah.
Not do your diligence. And then after the tasting, they started to give me the whole same story. Well, this guy is so great, and he worked with this guy, and he's from here. I said,
yeah.
Come on, this is not what we talked about. So, goodbye. You got to say goodbye. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Brian Baxter and Nate at Husk because I was like, if I'm in Tennessee, I spent a little time at McCrady's staging with Sean and Dano Hines down there.
So what time frame was that?
I was probably, I guess, 2 years prior to moving here.
Okay.
Ash and I were just kind of traveling in the summer. We were in South Carolina. I was going to Charleston for weeks at a time and
getting
an Airbnb and staying over there.
All right. And at this point, where were you working?
That was a summer. I was a little period of time I was off.
Got you. After the Michael White business?
After the Michael White, we're doing New Jersey stuff. There's a couple projects. I have some free time.
Yeah, you staged at McCrady's.
Yeah.
How was your stage at McCrady's?
Tremendous.
Is that where you met Baxter and everybody?
No, Brian was in Tennessee at that point.
Okay.
But I had Ashley. It was one of Ash and my favorite restaurants, like of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, tremendous food.
At that time, Sean's in the kitchen.
He was to some extent. This was getting to be maybe 4 or 5 years into that place being a true success.
Okay.
So they were clearly moving forward really, really well at that point. He was not, I wouldn't say he was there all the time, but he was still a regular, foundation in that building. When
got you. Okay. So you stage there, then you keep kind of moving around. You move to Nashville. All that stuff happens to you.
Exactly.
Right. And then
I'm like, well, I wanted to, because I would have worked at McCrady's if there was a position. There was just no
understood.
Position.
Yeah.
I should say, if they would have had me.
Yeah.
If there was a position, I would have worked there. We had agreed that Charleston was a place we liked, so that was no issue. I said, well, I'm in Nashville. There's nobody else. Capper didn't have a space. I went and talked to Trevor. The only other option was Husk, and I've never had a problem starting on the bottom. I mean, I think that it's a great way to learn.
That's where you do it, yeah.
Yeah, and so I went to them. I'm like, you guys have a spot for me? I'll do whatever. They're like, we don't have any management. We don't have whatever. You can start in PM Garmager. I said, fantastic, awesome. I'm like, I don't care. I'll just work through it. And then did almost 3 years there. Worked through every station. Made me the butcher, made sous chef, did as much as I could, spent as much time with Sean and the business, helping them grow. And I mean, that was really special. It was hard work. His standards are tremendous and, expects a lot. And I think all the best do.
Yeah.
When you don't stray away from that, it's pretty special.
For sure. What was your tenure there? How long?
Yeah, almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah. 2 3/4, I believe.
Why did you decide to move on?
Well, so we all know the story of Sean's health, obviously.
Yeah,
which is great. I'm glad that those things have gone in that direction. But he parted ways from Neighborhood Dining Group, which
understood
was the Husk umbrella.
Probably
about 6 months prior to me, and clearly we all know what happens when dad's not around or
Yeah.
the chef's not around.
Exactly.
Or,